Thank you, Jimmy Witch. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeremy. I want to say thank you to the TRCM for this invite. We talked to Jeremy, let's say a couple months back. I said to him, welcome, feel free to invite the MFNERC to do a presentation, and if we're talking about education or treaty education, you name it, and knowing obviously the great work that's being done here through TRCM. It's a pleasure to be here. I see Jimmy Wedge. I've been fortunate. I've had a great day already. This morning I opened a meeting with our Inclusive Education Services Department. They're hosting a resource teachers meeting and with principals as well on inclusive education services. So it's just part of the work that we do, and we have about 70 resource teachers and principals getting the first go at the training for inclusive ed, which is literally work we do with clinicians through our organization. Of course, work done in the schools with the children that require special services. I'm not sure again I'll say with this forum who is here. I do want to make it the opportunity that you ask questions any time. I'm here to speak a little bit about the treaties. I focus more on, I guess, the background, history that I know of treaties, and especially being a treaty person all my life. And that being said, I speak from here, knowing exactly what we've experienced back and through my livelihood, right from being young to today, and the challenges or sometimes the experiences we had with being a treaty person. I'll share with you some of the history to that in my experience, but I also have Geraldine Campbell with me. Geraldine is I'll say the expert. I'll speak on it. She's the expert. She's been a past school teacher. I'm not going to introduce her. She'll introduce herself, but her experience has been in the schools, and of course she's our language and culture coordinator through the Manitoba First Nations school system. Before I start, I'm really curious of the people here, where I guess a little bit of maybe who they are, and maybe a little bit of knowledge about what treaty education is to you. And if you don't mind me asking, do you mind if I ask your name and a little bit of your background or knowledge of treaty education, or yourself?
Jacqueline Thompson Nitsigazon. So Jacqueline Thompson, I'm from Treaty 4.
Okay.
And I was an Indigenous advocate. This is really low.
Yes.
I was an Indigenous advocate in Regina for 5 years. So I worked in elementary school, but we were nature-based. So we had a very different relationship with the land and education. I was fortunate to see a lot of treaty education integrated into our school, but the students that were coming from a public school system or the separate school system, they often shared that when it came to treaty education in the public school, teachers were really frustrated. They were almost like grumpy to integrate treaty education. Lots of different reasons, but coming from Saskatchewan, I just moved to Manitoba in May, so I was just coming to hear about treaty education here, and thanks.
Well, thank you. Let's pass it on. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol Dick, and I'm a settler. I've gotten to know many of the people with the Treaty Commission, Jeremy, and people in terms of on being on the committee for the We Are All Treaty People event that happened a week and a half ago. Seemed like it was just happened, but so I think in terms of my interest, my family grew up in a Indigenous remote community in Treaty 5. So I was there from the first 16 years of my life. So it's always been an interest for me. Now I have grandkids in the school system and really would like to find out, what kind of education they may be getting. They're 13 and 15, so you can imagine I don't get a whole lot of information. So I go to events like this to try and find out what's happening.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. My name is Kerry St. Harvey, also a Mennonite settler. And as you mentioned, the partnership that we have with the Treaty Relations Commission is around this treaty celebration that we do every year here in the Forks. And so that's pretty cool. I work for Mennonite Central Committee in the area of Indigenous settler relations. So I do a fair bit of adult education and talking around treaty and what does that mean for us as non-Indigenous folks. So it's an important aspect for me, and I also spent a little time in the North in education way back 20-some years ago, so also very interested in what you're doing, so thank you.
You bet, thank you.
I'm Sonia Landstrom, and I'm just so interested in, I grew up in Red Lake, Ontario. My family is Scandinavian settlers, and I lived with Indigenous people. They were our best friends, and I just feel strongly it's about building relationships. And I don't know what else to say. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
I'm also a Mennonite settler, Alex Swansky. I grew up actually with MCC in Europe, Germany, and as some might know, there's a very interesting relationship that Germans have with Indigenous folks here in Turtle Island. So part of that is me deconstructing some of that. Part of it is also just wanting to also know, I think equally, what are students also in school right now hearing, because as an educator now, teaching in a university at CMU, I want to kind of hear what are students actually kind of coming into class with. Where can we start? Where can we continue?
Thank you very much.
The center fund is really good. Well, I'm happy to be here. I'm Mohawk, Korean, Ojibwe, and it spans from Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, so I have roots there. I'm with the Canadian Red Cross. My past position was in disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, and I am listening today to find out how we can build those partnerships through the school system and others. I'll pass it on.
Hello, I'm Maxine Schwenka, also with the Canadian Red Cross. I am our Senior Manager of Operations for Indigenous Programs. So overseeing our Indigenous programming from coast to coast. So I'm here to really learn. I didn't learn about treaties through school. It was something that was kind of implemented in our curriculum. So my knowledge has been through family. I'm First Nations, member of key First Nations in Saskatchewan, so Treaty 4 as well. So my knowledge has been from ancestors and family and kind of what's been passed down, bits and pieces of what my mom has shared with me. However, she's also a residential school survivor, so her knowledge has also been kind of put on the back burner for that. So I find this actually quite interesting. My daughter is also a Brandon University student and is doing the treaties course right now at the school, and she phones me at the end of the day and she just gets mad. She's just angry. So she's been, really wanting to learn more about that and advocate for that. So a number of different hats that I'm wearing right now that brought me here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Dennis McLeod. I'm from Pimachikamak Cree Nation, Treaty 5. But I live and work currently in Winnipeg and grew up in the north. My community was Wabodin. Today I'm working with Treaty 1 in workforce development. So what we're doing is we want all the project workers that are on the Nawi site to be educated on the treaties and the true history of Canada. So I'm just here to observe and learn too.
Hi. Hi, Charles. Hi, Julie. I'm Amanda Smart. I'm the education manager here at the Treaty Commission.
and we've been doing treaty education in the schools since 2009-10. So I just come to listen and get an update from my colleagues and my friends from the First Nations Resource Center and MFNSS, and together we're getting it done.
Hi, my name is Siobhan. I'm a retired teacher and I'm an in-school support teacher for the Treaty Commission. And I'm just delighted that Geraldine's here today. What a great surprise. And just here to learn.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll ask others. Thank you so much. Well done.
I'm Tansei. My name is Jessica Daniels. I'm actually Jeremy's wife. I just want to thank everyone for being here, and also I'm really grateful to my director here and my colleague Geraldine. I've learned so much. I've had the pleasure of working with Charles for the past 10 years and with Geraldine for 5, and I've learned so much. My family's from Treaty 5, York Factory Cree Nation, and we settled in Bay St. Paul. I'm currently a Métis, but also have my roots from York. So, Ebisani.
Bonjour, my name is Geraldine Campbell, Dishnikas. I'm originally from Scotland, Treaty First Nation, Treaty 2. Welcome all my relatives, and I will share more about our work and about myself when I do my presentation. Thank you for coming today.
Well, thank you. It's very good to hear about who is here and the circles, and of course Red Cross is great work for peoples and people with CMU, and of course as you say the settlers. We really appreciate being given an opportunity, a Treaty 5 member, and being given an opportunity to provide some of the, I'll say, background and work that's being done. One thing, and it's kind of our protocol, we certainly want to recognize being on Treaty 1 territory that we cherish the opportunity to work, to speak, to present on this great land and the great Treaty 1 territory. So I do want to acknowledge that certainly being, I'll say, allowed to come in and speak on the territory. So, and when you look at even things like Treaty 4, obviously Treaty 5, I'm a Treaty 2 member. Ebb and Flow is part of Treaty 2. One thing I will say, and I'm a proud language speaker. I'll say that I've been speaking our language of the community in my community, Ebb and Flow, the Ojibwe language all my life, and very proud of that. In fact, Kapmashing make a Anishinabe with Kakakwaki Jogo, Chichina, that was so no woman mamudabia. You get Chickenama, Yakina, as you Madizim. And in the language, I said my Anishinabe name is Flying Bald Eagle. That's my given name, and proud of that. From the Ebb and Flow First Nation, member of the First Nation, which is Treaty 4. And coming together like this, I'm a believer if we can share any information we can to help people know who we are, what we do, and how we live. It's always a blessing. And I wanted to actually quote, and I was looking at some of the displays here, and one, they all stand out. I'm going to say that they all stand out. Obviously, you look at Treaty 4, the medallion, and all of that. Some of the scriptures and on treaties and so on. I do like the quote where one of them says, "We are all treaty people," and this was quoted by Harold Cardinal. I've heard of the name. I think maybe Saskatchewan would know more, or maybe even Alberta. But Harold Cardinal is from a name I've heard right throughout. But one of the things that is said is, thanks to treaties, all Canadians today benefit from sharing of land and resources and can live prosperous lives on First Nation ancestral lands. We are all part of the treaty relationship, which is why we like to say we are all treaty people. And this is a quote from Harold Cardinal. To the Indians of Canada, the treaties represent on Indian Magna Carta. The treaties are important to us because we entered into these negotiations with faith, with hope, and for a better life with honor. It's so true. It's so true on that statement. Being being a community member, I grew up in a small community called Bacon Ridge. Bacon Ridge is the Métis side of the ebb and flow community. So it's literally two communities in one. But going back, I'm not going to say how old I am, but going back many years, maybe another many to that. We lived off reserve. I lived off reserve, but the one thing that was a little bit unique about growing up in Bacon Ridge was we were literally the only treaty people on the reserves, on the off reserve side, in the Métis community side. And when you look at today, and I know this happens in many communities, I think it's in your community in Scotland, the same thing. Many off reserve people have now become treaty through various, I guess, the means of treaty processes. There is now things like 6-1, 6-2, which is, in my mind, a strategy to literally eliminate treaty people. And the way things are designed and government designed it is going to eliminate treaty people over time. And it's actually happening already. And it all depends on literally your children and who they marry and have children with. And that does result in people, and some of our children losing their treaties. And obviously there's been push that has to change. We live as treaty people all our lives. When you look at, I have my old treaty card. I had to get a new treaty card. Maybe I'll share what it looks like today. I still use it because I used it at Home Depot yesterday. So this is the treaty card today. Anybody have an older one? Again, these are all newer cards, but there used to be an older style card as well. And unfortunately, about 3 months ago, I lost my wallet. I know where I lost it, so I knew for sure it's gone. Throughout the last 3 months, I've had to gather new driver's license, obviously new cards, and one of them was a treaty card. And fortunately, this came in not too long. Nice, glossy, hard card. Previous ones literally had expiration dates on it. I'm thinking, well, we always say, why an expiration date? We're treaty people, we don't expire. We're here for life. So even growing up, we had challenges. And I'm going to share this, and I know it's, at no point would I say names, but I grew up in a community where a lot of them are relatives, a lot of them become treaty, but back in the day when I was young, I'm going to say 10 years old, we'd be riding on a bus, and I'd be called on by my own relatives, community people that are my age, that are great friends of mine. I grew up with them, but great friends of mine. But they used to call us cows. Why cows? Well, literally, if you think of cows, cattle, they have tags. They have numbered tags. And our own relatives and friends that weren't treaty would call us cows because we had a treaty card with a treaty number. So we used to have those experiences. In school, in one of the courses, I remember in grade 7, grade 8, as an example, and we attended a provincial school already in St. Rose de Lac, so it was in a French Métis community. Today, French, German, Métis community, and we had experiences such as we were provided gym clothes, gym outfit for the gymnasium classes. So none of us had things like that. Our playground was out in the bush. You don't have gym pants, and back in the day, runners that would fit stuff that they wanted. So we would get them through. All of a sudden one day we're getting gym clothes, we're getting runners, like cool. But then we find out it's only for the treaty kids. And of course the things that came back to us was not positive, right? From non-treaty, non-First Nation people. So it was always there was always that stigma of being treaty. And you know what? at some point, there was time. Well, we didn't even start a presentation. There was even some time where we weren't proud, I'll say. We weren't proud to be treaty people. I guess I was fortunate because as the introduction, my mother forced me, I'd say forced me to stay in school. You know, every one of my peers, my age, literally would drop out at grade 8, grade 9, or dropped out or were forced out. But over time, for sure, one of the things, and I always speak about why I stayed, was sports and mathematics. I enjoyed math. The teacher that provided us instruction was so good that I wanted to be in that class. To the point where, as we got older, grade 11, grade 12, we had competitions amongst ourselves of our classmates, and kind of getting away from the treaty, but still in the context of education. And some of the experiences, such as, I'll say, racism, being stereotyped or being pushed aside. Grade 11, grade 12, and in those times we had the 200-300 classes and 400 classes, I believe. But they were the math university entrance courses. And in my class, I was the top. I was the only First Nation student in that class. And there was about 25 of us from the communities around. When it came time to be chosen or selected, at that time there used to be provincial math contests where school divisions would send representatives from schools. Being a top student, I didn't get to go. I was not selected. Is it because of my color, right? And I knew that was why. I always joked about that after, because the person that was selected became a very top person in real estate in Edmonton, and to the point where I understand he's pretty well worth millions. And at the time when I spoke, I spoke at a keynote. I says, here's a guy with millions, and here's a guy with $500 in his bank account. So back then, right? So then those are the kind of things we experienced, and part of it was because of, I'll say, the issues of treaty and First Nation and all of that back then. So again, I do want to say thank you. Being on Treaty 1 territory, and if there's some things I do want to share, and from an education context, the treaties also have education components in the treaties, but those are also things that have not been fulfilled by government. One of the things is, and I'll just kind of roughly quote it, but it's a Treaty 2 is that when Indians desire a schoolhouse, then it should be provided to them. It's not like that. It's not like that. Not every First Nation has a schoolhouse on reserve. If they desire, based on the treaty, they should receive it. One thing that's really coming around again, it does cause a lot of talk in the communities, is cows and plows. Again, that's a treaty item in I guess in our context, but it does create a lot of discussion, right? So there is even that. There's many things that are associated with treaty. I won't say many, but there are things, and it still impacts us because it is some things that the rights and wrongs of treaties. So I have Geraldine. Obviously, she's going to go into she'll speak about the education classroom materials. But one of the things, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there is something called a treaty kit for schools, and these are provided to schools. There's training provided, a lot of books and materials, resources. So Geraldine will kind of share a little bit about that and what we all utilize in schools on treaty education and treaty training. Yes?
I was wondering, how many unreserved schools are there in the province?
How many unreserved schools?
Yeah. There's 63 First Nation. How many?
There's actually 58 First Nation schools on 48 nations with 58 schools, because some of them would have 2 schools. So 48 nations do have schools on reserve, and then and so on. Some of the nations have partnerships with school divisions such as Frontier School Division, Park West School Division. I think Buffalo Point, as an example, has school, partnership in the U.S. So there's partnerships like that as well. So when we look, I kind of talk about, I guess, really that the relationships, the respect, responsibility. Obviously, when we look at that, certainly treaties were signed many, basically a couple decades ago, a couple centuries ago, 1700s, 1800s, and within that, obviously, there's been treaties. In Manitoba, we have Treaty 1, Treaty 2, Treaty 4, Treaty 5, Treaty 10, and Treaty 3 as well. Yeah. So again, I'm glad. Thank you, Tim. So, and I was going to share this story, and I shared this with Geraldine this morning, because when we look at the late Chief Pascal Beghetti, this is something was quoted for him, and again, one of the strong advocates in First Nations and treaties back in the day from Pukanawagan. Actually, I have a little funny story. I worked for the Assembly Manitoba Chiefs for a few years, and one of the things that we got involved in was doing writing for resolutions. So as a resolution writer, sometimes we'll be asked to sit there and draft resolutions when chiefs would come and ask. So Pascal one time came to me and said, I need a resolution for the oil spill on their education lands, or on their lands, and I'm like, well, now I have to do a resolution for Chief Pascal Beghetti. I looked at him with very high regard. But it was just taking too long, and I'm trying to make the perfect resolution, and all of a sudden I look at him, and he's just literally that far ahead of me. I can see him turning around, like literally giving me the eye. Hurry up! So that's like, so I still remember Chief Pascal Beghetti, that like very strong. But again, it totally speaks about exactly the treaties, legislation, of course, because of that, we've become the poorest peoples in Canada. We do have a strategic plan, and I'm going to actually have Geraldine speak on this, but one thing, just coincidentally, the last 2 days, previous today, we, as an organization, we got together with our directors, our managers, assistant directors, and so on, and we're updating our strategic plan. And when you look at our strategic plan, it talks about the principles, it talks about our mission, vision, of course, all of the objectives in our strategic plan. And one thing that, even though I know it's embedded in our, I'll say it in our guiding principles, it's not specific or literally outright stating treaty, anything related to treaties. So just that alone, just yesterday, and just coincident because knowing I'm coming here, I spoke that treaty education is not explicit in this. It has to be. And so literally we took the treaty right to education and put it right at the beginning as one of our guiding principles is the treaty right to education. Because we're strong believers in the treaty right to education. And again, the schoolhouse, the education in terms of not only elementary but secondary, but also post-secondary. The only thing with challenges we have with government is that they don't view post-secondary as a treaty right, it's basically a policy. So there's issues with that for First Nation people that when you look at education, it's lifelong. It's from birth to death. and in between is lifelong learning. So there should not be any consideration of this and this and this when it's lifelong. So that's kind of an item that we speak about in treaties and the treaty right to education. You want to speak a little bit on this, Geraldine? Maybe I'll have you speak a few, take over for me for a bit while I
Sure.
while I catch up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Geraldine.
Yeah, that's okay. Bonjour, Menai. I'm just happy I'm here with you to share our knowledge and our experiences within our relationships with each other, not only with MFNERC and our school systems, but with TRCM. They provided a lot of resources and professional development that actually got us where we are today, and I want to thank them as well. Acknowledge the TRCM. Goal 1.2 is promoting the languages, but you're going to see the language and culture in every component, not only in traditional knowledge and perspectives, but the history and values of our cultural perspectives. That's the key to treaty education, is building that cultural relevance environment for our students. So it just fit beautiful within our treaty education training as well. Just a little brief history on how we got here. And Amanda mentioned we started 2009, and it's correct, it's written over here. And June 2005, where they mandated the 3 areas of research, facilitation, public education, and then it went into the Council of Elders that were included, and they trained grade 5 and 6 for the public school system. In Winnipeg School Division, we had 80 schools, and we trained. And the work was done in this era, but keeping in mind that MFNERC was involved as well. We had Council of Elders that actually work at MFNERC as well. So they're included, and our resources are beautifully printed out. And there is a lot of resources that Charles has mentioned. The Wabung book is in there, and there's videos of our elders in there too. New K-12 teacher resources, fully implemented 2014 and 15, ongoing till now. And including the treaty education grade 12 course that is mandated across our public school systems in Manitoba, where a grade 12 teacher now has to teach. It's not a student-initiated course, it's actually a course that they have to teach in the classrooms, and our students will get credited for it. Here is our data, and I'd like to thank the TRCM. I think it was when we collaborated since 2019 or 20. We did a session online, and Amanda and I we trained the teachers of our schools, and it was during COVID time. And these numbers came from way back then, and it increased every year because not only we got them to be interested in the topic, but they must be teaching this in their classrooms, right? So we really emphasize the importance of it as well. So our numbers did increase. Go ahead, Charles.
If there's one thing I'll add to this is when you look at the data, it's actually the Manitoba First Nation school system, which Geraldine is involved in as a language and culture coordinator. That entails actually, as of this past June, entailed 12 First Nation schools. So this data is based on 12. And as we say, the other nations, really they have the authority on what they want in their schools in terms of curriculum and all of that. And if it's treaty education, then they do it. And I know there's been training, and I know there is treaty education in the other schools outside the school system. So the data we have here pertains to the school system for 12. So if it entailed the 48 or 58 schools, 48 nations, I'm sure these numbers would be much higher. So, but again, having Geraldine.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And we have Bertel for school number 13 for this fall too. And we have training sessions coming up in November 5th and 6th. So it's going to be ongoing. 236 is our number. This is as of November of last year. So, oh, Mike, sorry. 236 go back. As of last year, of November 2024, and our numbers increasing as we go. Grade 12 high school course, I think it was 3 high schools, and we had a total of 9 teachers. And that's just a start, but there's more that will be included in this initiative as we keep going. And we're doing an orientation with our high schools as part of our work and our language and culture department. And we're going to be including the high schools and I think it was, Lake St. Martin, Panay, and Lake Man. Because there's new teachers as we go along too. So we have the K-12, as Charles mentioned, the 3D kit over here. It's got all the K-12 and videos and the journal books. There's tons of stuff, and there's a USB in there too that teachers could utilize and use in their classrooms while they teach their curriculum guides and their areas.
And one of the things that, and I know with the MFNSS staff, including Geraldine, they did create a strategic plan, and it wasn't just obviously just treaty education. It entailed all subject educational areas, literacy, numeracy, and so on, but treaty education was one of them. So these are basically the goals to increase knowledge and understanding of the treaties and the treaty relationship amongst all students. Pretty straightforward. It will ensure understanding the impact of the treaties and the treaty relationship on the creation of Manitoba, including First Nations. So again, the connection to treaties and the creation of Manitoba will strengthen relationships between all people, build bridges between all peoples in order to strengthen our society and prosperity. And of course, the goal is partnership with TRCM and MFNERC/MFNSS to train all First Nation schools. So again, that's our strategic, our objectives, our goals, and certainly treaty education is literally our guiding principle. Question?
Yeah, is this only going to be implemented in the First Nation school, or is there like Brandon School Division or Winnipeg School Division as an option for, because I think it's good knowledge and information to have, that's for.
Well, it's mandated across our Manitoba, right across our First Nation, not let alone our school divisions. And I know TRCM has done tons of work, training all schools, and not included our First Nations, sorry.
And of course, the premise or principle is that we are all treaty people, so the training should be provided to all, not only First Nation schools, but all school divisions in Manitoba. And I know it is happening, sometimes slowly in some schools, some divisions, and some are really moving forward quite quickly on it. So again, we have obviously no authority to how quick that goes. We have authority with the MFNSS, and of course, it's important to us.
Well, I just think it's important for like non-Indigenous people to have that knowledge and awareness as well, to break down some of those stereotypes of.
100%, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have new teachers every year, and they come from different countries. And I think as a new teacher for 2019 that just came to Canada, by all means should know what they're coming into their First Nations teaching our kids. So and we always try to build on that cultural relevance and competency area, and just that awareness is built between our conversations in schools too, keeping that in mind.
And actually, that kind of has that segue to this slide about why teach about treaties. And first of all, obviously, it's in the Manitoba curriculum, and again, having that being taught in provincial schools, certainly it is mandated. Again, it's part of Manitoba's historical and contemporary landscape, among other things that are there. It's again, we certainly feel that it's a necessity to teach the treaties so that all people are aware of literally the First Nations of Manitoba and our connection to peoples, our connection to the land, our connection to everything, amongst others, our partners, our friends, our neighbors. leave this with
Yeah.
yourself, again, going back to the education side.
Yeah.
The expert in this.
Okay, yeah, I guess you can say I'm the expert now because I've been doing this for a while. And for kindergarten level, like the outcomes and the activities are all laid out in our book and the teacher guide. So the ideas come from the teacher guide. And it's totally up to that teacher to explore and develop as they go. And some of the topics that they can do in kindergarten is building that friendship in the relationship within their students and teachers. And an activity was the puppets that they could do, building that friendship. Grade 1, treaty symbols and creating the treaty medal, using pictures on friendship, peaceful and to share relationships. Grade 2, create a treaty community chain. Students will explore the roles and responsibilities of being a member in the treaty community. Feeling that sense of belonging is a really important area in our work as teachers, and I think as educators, that identity is a big one. Grade 3, traditional First Nations, the map on languages. Okay, MF North has a beautiful map, and I think you've seen it. It's got all the First Nation community names in English, and Dakota, Cree, Dene, and Ojibwe, and it's written on English, and it's got the language and the meaning of that community. So it's beautiful. Yeah, it's probably here somewhere. Right?
Can we buy it?
The blue map.
Is it a resource?
Do they have it here?
Actually, when you talk about can we get copies and so on, we do have, we do make them available. And we do have our own website where you can purchase resources. And that's, I know, one of them.
Yes.
And amongst other resources. And in fact, if you get a chance to take a look at the website and the library and the purchases, I am going to reference this item. And this all of this means a lot to me. Obviously, the treaty medal, which is right there, and I've actually held on to. I'm not sure if it was the real one or a replica, but I tell you what, it sure seemed real because it was heavy, very heavy, and so stuff like that. When you look at the traditional maps, and that was an activity done within our organization a number of years back. And this one, I always find interest because in my home community, and I'll even share why in my mind it's important that we teach our kids things like our traditional names and treaties and so on. My home community is called ebb and flow. You hear about a lot about ebb and flow in various ways. I'm going to speak about sports. When the tide turns, when let's say hockey or things happen, you'll hear the ebb and flow every once in a while because things go back and forth. Whether it's just activities. One thing about ebb and flow is that in our language we call it kakakwekiju. We call that as ebb and flow. And in our language, kakakwe means back and forth. Back and forth. Kakakwe means back and forth. Jiung is always referencing water, whether it's a lake, something water related, so kakakwekijo, ebb and flow. We border right on a lake. And the lake itself is actually, if you could maybe picture it, it's like a cigar-shaped lake. So it's kind of cigar-shaped. What happens in that is, of course, that's where the name originated, is water comes in through one part of the lake, and as it comes through, it gets to a point where it has nowhere to go, or it has a little area to go, but it actually comes back. So it does go back and forth. So water comes in, water goes back. Water comes in, water goes back. That's the name kakakwekijo, ebb and flow. So these are the kind of things we cherish about. Let's put our traditional names. And I know Cross Lake, Treaty 5, Pimichimak, but I don't want to butcher names, but there's a reason obviously for that name, and I think there's traditional reasons. And I know based on the traditional maps itself, all the definitions, we were able to find why those names exist for that. So just that, so yeah, I just wanted to share that.
How much time do we have now?
Maybe 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay. I just have to keep that in mind. 6? Okay. We're gonna kind of go through this really quick. These are just activities, ideas that kids have actually done, and it's actually they're important like activities as well. Yeah, the family medal and the Treaty 2 medals and Panama Attain yet. And this is like she was almost a retired teacher, so she tries really hard. Okay, grade 4, 5, and 6. And they have all these activities, and Charles mentioned the stereotype and the investigating facts. Huge, huge component and topic in our schools, within even just our First Nation alone. And what they experience when they come to town or when they go to, to the city, all that kind of stuff. So that needs to be actually addressed as well in our topics. Grade 7, First Nations people in the world, the UN Declaration on Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Grade 8, kinship, all my relations, First Nation people societies. Okay, that's grade 8. Some topics on from grade 9 to 12. Like I said, I'm not going to read word for word, but what really stood out for me is the grade 8 outcomes, because it covered not only we are all treaty people, but the acknowledgement of our land. That was a really important area, and that built into an idea of, can't watch the video, but I just want to jump to it, Charles, just quick before, yeah, because it's an idea. Right here. This series of PD as not only, I thought about it and I said, how can we embed all 4 goals in our language and culture department? How can we bring this alive and have our teachers actually go out on the land? So what I did, it was I did a proposal actually, and what this looks like. And it covers treaties, language, land acknowledgement, reconciliation, and healing in the land. That's the important piece. Our teachers walked out at the end of the sessions feeling really good about themselves, let alone that they were exploring the nature and being outside. Okay, so medicine picking was our first day on October 16th, Birds Hill Park. This is this year. I had a poster from last year, but Wally Sharpen is our knowledge keeper. Then we're going to move into the Cree, and these are solstice times. And not only, let alone they're exploring the area, because there's always history in the area where you teach, right? So Fort White has got tons of teachings out there on the land. So we'll do the Cree with Norbert Mercury and Alan Caper, who works at NFNERC. Spring solstice, March 19th. I thought, how can we put Dakota people? They always say we're left out. They never talk about us. I said, okay, let's go out there. So we're going to Dakota Teepee First Nation, school grounds, setting up a teepee in their boardroom at the council office. It's a circular, beautiful building that was just built this past year. And I went out to see it. It's beautiful. It's going to fit. So Kevin Tatchin and Garrett Tatchin, Garrett is our language and culture teacher at the school. Beautiful. So that's going to happen on March 19th in our solstice time in the spring. And our teachers will attend all 4 sessions. And they're going to be new ones this year. And I actually bumped it to 3 teachers per school. Okay, so that's going to grow. So the plant the seed has been planted. Okay, the last one is 7 teachings on Broken Head Wetland Trail. Carl Smith and Taylor Galvin, yeah, it's just out there, like, you know, like Treaty 1, yes, but we need to include everyone. Everyone's included when we learn, right? When we teach, we know that we have a blended family of different people that are related in different nations, so why not, right? So I thought, yay. Okay, so then we're out there learning about the land base, the treaties, the language, and our cultural relevance environments that are embedded into our curriculum. So I tend to write notes, and I just thought, I thought this was important. It's a path to reconciliation between First Nation peoples and the Crown. Okay, when we think about treaty, what did it mean? It meant a promise of two people taking the best possible care for each other. Let alone it talks about the three principles, and I thought about this last night. Partnership, number 1. Number 2, protection. Number 3, participation. Let's take this to action. And that's reconciliation, take it into action. And that's treaty education as well. When you put all these principles together, building that shared responsibility for an equitable, just future. Not for only us as teachers and educators and our parents and grandparents, but for our students. They need to know. So that calls to action came from this, and it ties in with treaty education number 24. It ties in with number 51. We build this, government has an obligation to develop a policy which includes our education system, which is First Nations. Very, very important area to act and intend to our treaty rights, on our treaty rights, like Charles has said. You know, like even those cards, treaty cards, that's in the grade 10 lesson activity you can do as the numbers change. Ascendant, descendant, that could be a math activity, okay? Utilizing elders in the community, it's written in every resource guide and the grade levels. Topics such as the land and demographics, human rights, treaty rights, revitalization of languages, all important areas in the K-12 public school curriculum. Why it matters? We need to move forward to create a vision for hope and move forward together. Not only for us, but our students in schools. We are all treaty people, like Charles has mentioned. We have a shared responsibility to honor these agreements. So within our chiefs and our historical context of Treaty 1 being signed, where? Lower Fort Garry. Treaty 2, Lake Man, August 1871, 1872, and so on and so forth. Those are important dates, and our kids need to know when and where. That's really important. And our beautiful way of celebrating is ending our, we have a heritage fair that's now going to be addressed, and we have it on November 27th. And it's all on treaties. Let alone, we're going to schools right now, and we're highlighting, cheerleading, supporting. So far, we've done 5 schools, and it's from grades 5 to 12, and it's going to be on treaties as well. So come to Manitoba Museum on November 27th, and we'll have a showcase and highlight of work that our kids are doing, and they're the teachers at that time. So it's a very, very important moment for our kids. So yeah, I think that was it. Okay, I'll just put it this way. And I just want to put the cursor just in case there's one more. Yeah, those are just activities and books that are in the kit, and I do have it open. That's awesome. And building community, that's why we titled it, because Lake Man has done awesome work, and there was a grade 5 teacher helping, right, Margaret? She shared a lesson. She was, first, if she was like this, oh, I don't know if I know how to teach treaties. Yes, you do. So we had to encourage her, and she shared some ideas. She had a lesson presentation that she shared in her classroom, but this treaty, TP was building relationships. So those are activities we did with the teachers. And this is what our kids do. This is in Kinyo Jill Shagon, Treaty 5, Jackhead. Grade 10 students going out to set a net on the ice. Let alone that they know how to use the tools, but how to set the net and where to set the net and what they're gonna do with it later. So yeah, share. The fish, the pickerel, right? You know, these kids are not scared. They'll tell you and they're the teachers when you're out there, like when I was in Europe last week, we did mossberry picking with grade 5 and 6. Oh my God. 31 students, grade 5 and 6, dressed up, went on a bus, went out on the land, right into their forest area in their backyard. We were a little worried, 31 of them, one of them could get lost. No. They went into a moss area and they were like picking berries. And then they made jam at the end of it. And you can see the cross-curricular connections. And that's what we do. We really emphasize that. And, you know, you can do science, math, social studies, you know, and all those areas. You wish.
Thank you, Geraldine, and it's so true, exactly about, you know, the children that go out on the land.
Yeah.
There's more and more and more of that happening, and I know my community, I hear it, I see it on Facebook and all of that, but I also know it happens all over the place. Like even just this alone, that's a teaching, because there is a way to put up a teepee, and again, this is the teaching to do that, and all of that. I was able to be fortunate to be in a session where you put up a teepee, and that's quite an interesting concept. I know our time is done. We do have. We are going to share for your perusal to look at some of the resources. Certainly, I want to start with this one. It's as an example, Wabang, Our Tomorrows. That was the original book that was produced back in 1971, and it does touch on things related to health, education, and all of the housing in all of those areas. More recently, we through our organization, together with I believe the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs here, created a follow-up 50 years after Wabang, and they call it Wabanung, which is a form of Wabang, but down the road. So, and as you may notice, if you look at the kit, like there's also teacher guides in this one in grade 4. There's a number of teacher guides in here, and again, obviously course and grade relevant to the teachings. So these are things that have been created, and these are now available to schools. And I'll give a plug to people like Amanda and of course the TRCM for working together to build these kits. I know back in the day, MFNERC also provided a lot of the resources as well through our research and development to help create and work together on creating these kits. This is what a kit looks like. I was going to kick it, but this is what a kit looks like. And this is what's being provided to teachers and schools, so that's basically forms the foundations of the treaty kits and teachings accordingly. So I think pretty well, I think we covered what we can in a short time.
Yeah.
I now realize we could probably do this for a couple hours, but yes, so this is our first treaty presentation I've been involved with. So when Jeremy and I conversed on this, I said, an hour? I don't know if we have enough material for that. That's obviously we haven't even touched close, but again, again, I appreciate the time. Is there any questions? Maybe closing comments?
I'm just wondering if you bring the treaty like facilitators to programs, like say Canadian Red Cross to come and speak to staff, or is that more for the treaty office?
You know what, I think we have to really connect with the Treaty Relations Commission, but also as executive director, I'm very open to having our staff go out and support organizations. To me, it's if we can network, share, teach, That's what we're in the business for. And if we can do that for treaties or First Nation education, 100%. Geraldine will go out and do it, so, or other staff, so, yeah, absolutely.
And just think of that calls to action. It was meant to educate every organization, including the nurses and doctors, okay? TRCM with Amanda, great contact. We can take it back to different organizations and allies in our community, and yes, definitely, we need to educate everyone.
TRCM has a good connection with us.
Yeah.
Jeremy,
Partnership.
Jeremy just got husband and wife. So, but among other things, with Amanda, we've known Amanda for a long time, so.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think this is outstanding and what a major accomplishment and what a major challenge that you have. And do you have any idea to what degree this is being implemented in our schools?
Amanda could answer that, right?
What grade?
And for First Nation, I can, but go ahead.
to what extent?
To what extent? Like,
Well, the province mandated that every teacher in Manitoba be trained by December 2025.
yes.
But you know, I think it'd be wonderful for not just the schooling, but the whole public to learn about
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Everybody, how can we?
Well, I think once we fine tune our presentation, when we get out there.
Yeah.
Yes,
Go ahead, Jessica.
I just want to say thank you to our director, Charles Cochrane, and of course my colleague Geraldine. And I won't cry, but why is going to the land important? Why is it important for us to learn our treaties and where we're from? My mom was a 60s scoop. We weren't allowed to speak our language. We weren't allowed to do anything. My daughters are very different from my son. When Geraldine took me to York and we went on the land, somebody asked me, why? How do we heal from the land? And you know what? I said, the land remembers us. And my son is very different from my daughters, and I'm going to tell you why. The epigenetics that happens from the land, it changes. It's science. It literally changes our brains. Why is it going to take 7 years? Because our children need to go back to the land. And one day we'll be healed. But I want to thank Charles. I've known him for a long time, and I've learned so much. I was able to go home, and I've only been able to do that from the MF and ERC. And Geraldine, she saw something in me. She's like, you got to teach our kids that. Attachment is so important. So it's not just about the baby. It's about being on the land too. And they remember. So thank you for that. Chiniwich.
Thank you. Thank you. Be good. I'm actually, I think we've said a lot. I want to thank you for being able to come out and hear us. I'll say we are very proud of the work that we all do for our children, but also for our communities and also for partners. Anybody, again, if things happen where we have our staff that go out to help other organizations, at any point if we can teach and train, that's the business we're in. So again, chimi which chige was the one we want. It's very happy about it. I know it's on Facebook Live, so it's a little bit you're right. We waited until the end for that. Again, thank you very much. It's me, guys.